Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Bonnie's relationships. We already know how very much disrespected Bonnie was in the Vampire Diaries. Even though she's probably the most important out of Mr. Four's gang, she's by far the most disrespected. Like, without her, everyone in the entire Mystic Force would be dead. Everyone from Elena, Caroline, pretty much the entire town will be dead. Especially in season 8 because really and truly she's the one that stopped Hellfire. And plus, earlier seasons, without her, Elena will be dead. And then obviously, without her, Klaus will be dead, which means there will be no Stefan, no Damon, no Tyler, and no Caroline. Even with this, she's the only person out of the entire main cast that did not have any long-standing relationships. Like, she had just one good relationship, and that's it. Like, she only had one good relationship in 8 seasons. Do you know how wild that is? And even with that, all of her relationships fall within 2 categories. And that is, 1, they either violently die, like violently, or they violate her in the worst way possible. There's really only been one outlier, and that is Jamie. And that's because Jamie is by far the weirdest relationship she has ever had. Jamie is supposed to be her adopted brother slash stepbrother. So obviously that's going to be bad, as that's pretty much the same reason why I genuinely thought the Rebecca and Marcel relationship was weird to even think about. Even though it's good, don't get me wrong, but it's weird when he started because really and truly, Marcel was raised by Klaus and saw Rebecca as an aunt, which is weird considering that Rebecca known Marcel from since he was like 5 or 6. And then he raised Marcel and then ended up being with Marcel, which is very weird. But anyways, it's Vampire Diaries, so it's expected. With Jamie, like, it was so creepy. Every single time I look at their relationship, it's just weird. Like, although yes, they kind of seemed happy together, but really and truly, it's not as close as being good as how Rebecca and Marcel were. Like, with Rebecca and Marcel, their relationship had a lot of elements to it, as in it's very compelling, so you can pretty much write a show about just them two. But with Bonnie and Jamie, it's weird. Like, the relationship is weird, and it's not really a fun thing to watch. There's not really much, I won't say chemistry, but it's not as on par with the chemistry that Bonnie had later on with Enzo and Damon. But all in all, the relationship with Jamie wasn't really bad. It's just weird that it even started, especially the way it started. Just seemed weird because, again, stepbrother, adopted brother, weird. And I think the show pretty much just gave up on it because it's just so creepy to even look at. But it wasn't really bad, unlike Bonnie's other relationships. It was cute and it didn't really end in disappointment or full-on death graphically. And they were a decent romantic pairing, obviously not the best. There was only really one good romantic pairing for Bonnie, and obviously another one, but I just preferred him as friends. And now on to the disappointing ones. First, Ben. I'm a bro, I don't really remember anything that Ben did. All I can really remember is that he had a brief fling with Bonnie and he ended up betraying her because he was actually working with Anna, and obviously that didn't sit well with Stefan and the rest. Ben actually fit both criteria. Like, Ben died violently. Like, Stefan burned him to death. And then not only that, he also violated Bonnie, which means he fit both criteria because Ben actually was with Anna at that point. So he pretty much was trying to only get with Bonnie so that he can get something out of her. And I think he was trying to open the tomb. I don't really remember much from season 1. All I can remember about Ben is that he got very arrogant with Stefan, thinking that he could beat him because Stefan doesn't really drink blood. And well, he couldn't because Stefan was like 100 or something years older than him. So that didn't really matter because Stefan easily managed to manhandle him. Now on to Bonnie's next fling, Carter. Do you guys want to know how long this relationship lasted? One night. It literally just lasted for one night before he got violently murdered by Caroline. He initially got used by Damon so that Damon can find out what actually makes Mason so strong. And then later on, since Mason attacked him and he was bleeding, Caroline saw the blood and then just outright murdered him. Gruesomely, mind you. And then next is Luka. I mean, Luka wasn't doing much bad things per se. Like, he wasn't really bad for Bonnie. Like, their relationship was fine. But obviously, Luka was working with Elijah at the same time, trying to be friends with Bonnie. And really and truly, Bonnie was somewhat of an enemy of Elijah, at least at that point. And Bonnie didn't really know about what Elijah was doing and didn't even know whether or not Luka was actually even friends with Elijah, because Luka didn't tell her at all until she eventually found out. And obviously, the moment that she found out that Luka was actually betraying her by, you know, one, lying to her and then working with the enemy, she started to gravitate towards Jeremy. And Jeremy is probably her worst relationship overall. Really a couple of things that were bad about the relationship. The first one, and probably the biggest one, is seeing as Jeremy was 15 in season 1 and Elena only turned 18 in season 3 and she was 17 at the start of season 1, which means that Jeremy by season 2 will still be 15, which means that Bunny, a 17-year-old, was dating a 15-year-old, which is weird, but I mean, it's Vampire Diaries. There are 1,000-year-old vampires chasing 17-year-olds, but you know, nobody actually seems to find it weird. But even with the duration of the relationship, like, this is probably the worst violation Bunny has ever been through, because Jeremy would rather be with his dead ex-girlfriend than being with Bunny. Do you know how bad that is? Bear in mind, this is like at the start of season 3, which is like pretty much a couple of episodes after Bunny saved Elena's life in season 2. And also, Bunny was responsible for pretty much saving everyone else, and he still felt the need to violate her like that. And then they somehow rekindled that down the line, which is weird. I don't know how that even happened, but Bunny even sacrificed her life to even trying to save him. Like, Bunny tried to bring him back to life and then she died in the process, which I always kind of found weird, because why would she risk her life trying to save Jeremy? Because he pretty much just violated her like the worst way you can possibly think of, because he didn't really just cheat on her. Like, he pretty much said that I would rather be with somebody that is dead than be with you. That's wild. Anyways, that relationship was weird and it was off. I have no idea why they even were a thing up to season 5, mind you. Like, they started from season 2 to season 5. They spent 3 seasons together, which is pretty much longer than what her and Enzo spent, which is crazy to think about. Like, Jeremy was arguably Bunny's worst relationship and she was with him the longest, which is wild. And then now finally onto her best romantic partner and her last romantic partner, Enzo. Enzo was probably hands down her best relationship. Not only that, it was probably one of the best relationships out of the entire show, which is insane seeing as there was a lot. But even with that, even with all her happiness, he got murdered violently by Stefan. Like, in a brutal way, right in front of her face. And she couldn't even do anything about it because she lost her powers in season 7. So all she could really do is just stand and watch as Stefan rip her boyfriend's heart out, like right in front of her face. But all in all, Bunny was pretty much getting violated when it comes to romantic relationships. Pretty much the entire show. Like, the only good relationship that she had was with Enzo. And maybe Luka, but they didn't really get into any full-on romantic relationship because that ended very quickly. But pretty much every single time she got into one, either ends in 2 ways. Either one, they violate her in the most disrespectful way possible, or they violently get killed right in front of her.